So today's lesson was on exercise 4.05 and 4.06, which is finding unknown sides. This is just a recap just in case you got confused because you still have a few more days to do your homework. So just as a recap, we were looking at how to actually name triangles in relationship to the angle, which is really important. We know which side's the opposite, which side's the adjacent, which side is the hypotenuse. The key word that you also need to remember is SOHCAHTOA, which is an acronym which states that there's a relationship between sin and the angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cos theta or cos angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. When you're trying to find a missing length, you can choose the different relationships, sine, cosine, or tan. Today we're going to go through all three, and the example states that you've got a triangle with a 65-degree angle, your unknown's at the bottom, and you've got the 11 centimeters on your hypotenuse. I would like you to always label your triangle, and you've got the hypotenuse which has been given to you and your unknowns on the opposite. So you then look at SOHCAHTOA and see which one has an O and a H, which is then your sin relationship. So you write down your sin relationships, which is sin theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. You plug in the numbers where they need to go. So sin 65 degrees equals your opposite, which we don't know, which we are representing as x, and your hypotenuse is 11. Now my unknown's at the top, so it's basically saying unknown divided by 11. So I want to bring this 11 to the other side because I want to isolate that x. So to bring this 11 to the other side, I multiply sin 65 by 11. Which then gives me my unknown. I plug it into my calculator. How do I plug it into my calculator? Well, if you're going to plug it like this, you've got to type in sin 65, press your equal sign, then times it by 11. If you want to do it all in one step, you type in 11 times, or you don't even need to press the times button, just press the sin button, 65, and you will get your answer. Round it to 2 decimal places and make sure you state that you have rounded it to 2 decimal places, and therefore then your answer is around 9.97 centimeters. There's a few more for you to work through, so you can pause now and work through these 3 extra questions. So pause now and you can work through those 3 questions, and you can then unpause and the answers will be coming up. There is a mistake on my PowerPoint. I can't remember exactly where, so please let me know if you notice the mistake. So those are the answers for those 3. Check your work and make sure you got it right. And we're now going to work through, I think this is the same slide. Maybe not. You can have a look and double check your answers. And now we're going to look at the cosine relationship. The cosine relationship, as we know, is ca, which means cos angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So I've got a triangle. Always my first step is label my triangle. It's got an adjacent and it's got a hypotenuse. So which one of these 3 has an A and a H? Well, it's cosine. So I write my relationship out. I plug in the right numbers where they're supposed to go. Cos 53 equals adjacent over 10. My unknown's at the top, so therefore I know I need to multiply everything on the left by 10. So cos 53 times 10 gives me my unknown. So therefore my unknown is now 6.02 to 2 decimal places. So 6.02 centimeters. The next one is I'm labeling my triangle. I've got hypotenuse and then I've got my adjacent. So again, we know it's cos because it's got the adjacent and the hypotenuse. My relationship is cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. I plug in the right numbers where they're supposed to go, and this now is a little bit different because my unknown's at the bottom. So how do I actually solve for the unknowns at the bottom? Well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to swap these two. I'm going to bring this cos 66 to the bottom, and I'm going to bring that x up. So if your unknown's at the bottom, swap them. If my unknown's at the top, I multiply. So I rewrite it, the expression, and it turns into x equals 12 over cos 66. I punched it into my calculator. Do not punch into your calculator like a fraction. Make sure you punch it in using the division function key. Do not punch it in as a fraction, because if you do that, you will get a syntax error. So punch into your calculator 12 divided by cos 66, and you will get an answer, again, rounded to 2 decimal places, and it's 29.50. You can work out these two, so pause now and work them out, and you can unpause now because I'm going to give you all the answers. Again, I think there's a bit of a mistake somewhere, so double check and give me a comment or a note where my mistake is. Okay, so these have been rounded to 2 decimal places. Also make sure that your units are, because I've been a bit lazy with my PowerPoints, and some of them have my units and some of them don't. In your exam, you have to have your units. Now we're going to use the tan relationship. So tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. Again, I've got a triangle. Work out, label your triangle accordingly, and you know it's the tan relationship because we've got the adjacent and we've got the opposite. We do not have anything on our hypotenuse. So that's a big visual check for you. Once you have that, you then know it's your tan relationship, write it down, and then plug in accordingly. Do not miss this step. This is a really important step. At the moment, just keep going with these steps, because later on when you're doing your HSC or further education, you can then skip your steps. But at the moment, it's better, since you're learning it for the first time, to write these out. Tan 71 equals your opposite, which we don't know, representing as x, and 10 over 10. So now my unknown's at the top, so I know I just need to multiply everything by 10. And I get my x, which is 29.04 centimeters, and that's been rounded to 2 decimal places again. Here's another triangle. Again, it's kind of rotated. So label my triangle as per we always do. Adjacent, opposite. We know it's TOA. So again, write down the relationship, plug in as we do. Tan 31 equals 8 centimeters over, I don't know. My unknown's at the bottom. So therefore I need to swap. So it turns into x equals 8 divided by tan 31. Again, on your calculator, use the division function key. Do not type this in as a fraction. X equals 13.31 centimeters, rounded to 2 decimal places. There's 2 more for you, so you can pause now and work through those. And the answers are going up now. So, using all 3 trig ratios, you've got, here's a few more. And now I need to, again, label to figure out which relationship it is. So, label. So, which one of these has the hype and the opposite? Well, it's my sin relationship, has an O and a H in it. Okay, it's very easy to label this incorrectly, which then will make you choose the wrong relationship. It is very key for you to label these correctly. So opposite and hypotenuse, it's the sin relationship. Write it down, plug in accordingly. My unknown's at the bottom. Again, this is also a very key mistake that people make. Your unknown's at the bottom, so you need to swap. And you get your answer as 9.57 centimeters, rounded to 2 decimal places. Now this time I've got my relationship as opposite and adjacent. So which one of these has opposite and adjacent? Well, it's my TOA, or my tan relationship. So write that down, plug it in, work it out. My unknown's at the bottom again, so I need to swap. Type it into your calculator as 7 with the division symbol, tan 33, and you get an answer. And now again, this one, I've got my hypotenuse, so I know it's going to be one of the first two. And I've got my adjacent, so it's my cos. So cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Plug in the right numbers where they're supposed to go. My unknown's at the top, so I'm going to multiply everything by 10. And I get 6.02 to 2 decimal places. Now, I've shown this as cos 53 times it by 10, but if you punch that into your calculator, it won't work. So you need to either do cos 53 equals and then times it by 10, which is an extra step, or you just bring that 10 in front and just type in 10 cos 53, and it will give you the right answer. And that's it. So remember, you've got homework due. It's every other question, 4.05 and 4.06. Be checked on Wednesday.